And while a British F-35 fighter jet made an emergency landing at Thiruvananthapuram Airport in Kerala. The jet is part of the UK's Prince of Wales aircraft carrier group, which is currently deployed in the Indo-Pacific and recently conducted joint drills with the Indian Navy. It had taken off from an aircraft carrier but couldn't land because of the inclement weather conditions. Take a look at this report.
Saturday 10:30 p.m., British fighter jet F-35 pilot made a distress call and requested clearance to land on Indian soil. A major air tragedy was averted after successful emergency landing of British stealth aircraft F-35 in Kerala's Thiruvananthapuram. This as it was dangerously running low on fuel while flying over the Arabian Sea.
The F-35 is a vertical takeoff and landing, naval aircraft of the Royal Navy that, like you rightly pointed out, is basically something that operates off the HMS Prince of Wales aircraft carrier of the Royal Navy, which has been operating in the Indian Ocean region, the Arabian Sea, etc., even with the Indian Navy. Now, this particular aircraft, which had taken off from the aircraft carrier, had run into some kind of a trouble with a low fuel warning. That's what we're hearing from our sources. There was a low fuel issue with the aircraft, which wasn't able to perhaps reach its objective. And therefore, it needed to divert, and the nearest airport or airfield, which is always part of the flight path or the flight plan of the pilot whenever such a thing happens.
The fighter aircraft was operating in the Indo-Pacific and had recently wrapped up joint maritime drills with the Indian Navy. In a statement, the Indian Air Force has said normal occurrence of diversion by F-35. IAF fully aware and facilitated the aircraft for flight safety reasons. All assistance being given, and IAF is in coordination with all agencies. In a similar incident, an Apache M-17 chopper of the Indian Air Force made an emergency landing in Punjab's Pathankot just 2 days ago. After taking off from Pathankot Air Force Station, the chopper was forced to make a precautionary landing in an open field without incurring any damage. After the horrific Air India plane crash in Ahmedabad that killed over 270 people and 5 chopper crashes in the last 6 weeks in Uttarakhand, scare in the skies is gripping the flyers. With Abhishek Datta, Bureau Report, NDTV.
And well, in the wake of this incident, we try and understand the nature of this emergency and what it means for India-UK relationship. I'm being joined by my colleague Osama, along with the guest with him. Osama, go ahead.
Yes, as you rightly mentioned, Kitty, in the wake of this emergency landing by the British F-35 fighter jet, we'll try and get a sense of the nature of this emergency and what it actually tells us about India and UK relationship. I'm currently joined live by Captain D.K. Sharma, the former spokesperson in the Navy consultant BharatShakti.in. Sir, welcome to NDTV. Firstly, as far as the nature of emergency is concerned, the report indicates critically low fuel. From a naval perspective, how common or uncommon is such a situation for carrier-borne aircraft, especially during exercises?
Good evening, Osama, and good evening to your viewers. Very interesting, incident has happened, and I will take you to the seas first. Carrier flying has got its own nuances. You see, the aircraft carrier, when it is launching or recovering, there can only be 2-3 things which can cause this kind of an emergency where you got to go to some other airfield. And as you know that, aircraft carrier can only be replicated with an aircraft carrier. So if there is the second aircraft carrier is not in company with you, or it is not operating within 100-200 miles, it is a standard operating procedure that wherever you are in the seas, you will be given the coordinates and frequencies of the nearest diversions available. So if it is an Indian carrier, they will know it, that the Indian carrier is somewhere here, this direction, and this is the position. Should that not be the case, like in this case, when Prince of Wales, it has just completed a passage exercise with Indian Navy, and she was transiting somewhere south. I don't know the exact position. No position is known till the time we ourselves are at sea. So when they have launched this F-35, only three things could have happened. One is, the monsoon is approaching, the seas are very bad. So what happens? Foxtrot 35 gets off and it's on its mission, and suddenly you find the weather where the carrier is operating has become turbulent. Turbulent means that there is too much of roll and pitch or too much of winds, because it is a V-stall aircraft, very short takeoff and landing straight. It is that vertical landing. So when the winds are of the speed of 30, 40, 50 knots, holding the aircraft and coming down is a little tricky. Plus, there is a roll and pitch on the aircraft. So this is one thing, that weather has caused this. Number two, there is a problem with the carrier, because there is a particular wind envelope which we create, and then the aircraft comes and that is matched, and then you come down. But in this case, they probably have waited, because when you are doing your mission, the pilot knows how much fuel you have got and how much is required for diversion. So all these calculations must be going on in his mind, and at an appropriate time, he has taken a decision to divert, because wherever he was, he had to traverse at least 200 nautical miles. That is, I think, because Prince of Wales is a carrier strike group moving around, so it will not be moving very close to coast in any case. It will be deep out at sea and doing its own mission, and with Foxtrot 35 doing that kind of an exercise. So three things: problem with the aircraft carrier, that it's not ready to receive you. Number two, the weather. And number three, trying to avoid that weather, and he has delayed it, and then comes the point of no return. And then he diverts. And now I'm coming to the actual thing. Once we are operating from the aircraft carrier, and as I have told you and I have told the viewers, that all the nearest diversions are available, which means the airport, the frequencies, and also your high commission with that country, except when you are, sworn enemies that you don't want to tell that you're operating there. So in this case, we have very good relations with the UK and Royal Navy. We have just exercised. So it was known that probably Mangalore also knew, Cochin also knew, Trivandrum also knew, and probably Chennai also knew that this kind of, because before you take off, the flight plan is shared with few people, and these diversions are amongst them. So they keep an eye on it, that should there be any emergency, this is likely to come and the air traffic has to be stopped because this will be an emergency.
So could you also give us a sense of the real-time communication and the coordination that would have occurred between the Prince of Wales and the Indian naval authorities once the F-35 pilot declared an emergency?
Osama, it is like this. Once you have taken a decision, that is when you have reached the point of no return, and now you have taken decision to divert, that is the time he will switch the frequency, tell the carrier, shifting to the Trivandrum frequency. And then while he is approaching Trivandrum, he is calling Trivandrum. He is raising, that is what we call in our terminology, he is raising Trivandrum, and more so, the carrier will also try and do it. The carrier will also inform, and many channels will open up. And the first priority at that time is the aircraft which is coming with a mayday call or with a SOS. This is at this point, it is SOS, that I am running short on fuel. Okay. I need a priority landing. So it is a quite accepted thing, unless you are actually, red and blue at war. Otherwise, there have been cases where during Cold War time, aircrafts who were snooping, that means gathering intelligence, who had problems, have landed in the adversary's place. I will not tell you beyond this what happened after that, but pilots were returned. Here, the topmost priority is the life of a pilot. So it is an international norm that should there be any emergency with anybody, get him in. But there have been cases. You saw that recently there was one flight to Jammu, which was asking for permission, and Lahore did not give it. So that's another case. But there are things, but generally 99.9% when it comes to a call like this, human lives matter. So they take priority.
You know, sir, this incident, it also showcases the level of trust and cooperation between India and the United Kingdom. Having said that, explain it to us. What happens if something similar happens to an Indian aircraft in international waters?
Okay, I'll just tell you a case of, say, a Bay of Bengal. A hypothetical case, INS Vikrant or INS Vikramaditya is operating with its Wolf pack. That means the fighters. Now, you as Osama, as a pilot of MiG-29K, takes off for a mission. You have an endurance of, say, 2 hours. You have gone for a mission and you find a problem. Or I, on board Vikramaditya, find a problem that I'm not able to receive you, which means I do not have that adequate speed. I do not have that wind and envelope, or there is something wrong with you, or a third thing which is in none of us control, that is the weather. Weather is not permitting. So before you had taken off from that position, you knew the position of the ship, how the ship is going to traverse for that 2 hours, because our speed is, say, around 30 to 35 kilometers per hour. So that means my position from where you took off and from where where you're going to land is 70 kilometers apart. So which is either end of Delhi. So what will happen is, you know that from this point when I take off, this is my mission and this is my point of no return. That should there be any problem, I need to either go to, say, Singapore or to Andamans or to, Jakarta or to, whatever is the next available diversionary airfield available, you will have all the frequencies on your iPad. That you at that point, you open up your radar and check from your GPS who's the closest, give a call. And before you were launched, all these stations will know that INS Vikramaditya is doing carrier flying. There will be MiG-29s flying. Should there be any requirement, top priority comes to the call, which comes. So this is how it is done all over the world. But now, yes, we have two great friends, one to our east and one to our west, that should we be operating in South China Sea. So whether I would like to go to, yellow, or I will head towards Vietnam, or I'll go to South Korea, or I will go to Philippines, or I will go to Indonesia, Thailand. So this will all depend upon my fuel which is left in the tank. So all these things are calculated with the pilot, and before launch he knows it, A, B, C, D, E. But 99.9% I have told you that no country will ever refuse. What happens to the asset thereafter? The man will come back. But I have told you, in Cold War times, there have been cases, if you read up, and whosoever is interested, they will know that when either of the countries were doing snooping missions, that is the spying missions, emergencies have happened, people have landed in adversary's land.
All right, Captain D.K. Sharma, thank you very much for speaking with NDTV and explaining all of it in detail, sir.